Welcome to Construction Champions Podcast, where we are burning the house down and rebuilding it twice a week. I'm your host, Rod Nussbaum, and I am here to help you become the champion that you're meant to be. Along with our amazing guests along the way, we will provide you with the resources, the latest and greatest. You will sit down with disruptors in the construction industry. And my goal from day one has always been to change the mindset around the construction industry. No more where we let the 3% of bad apes dictate the entire reputation of All right, welcome back to another episode of Construction Champions Podcast. I'm your host, Ron Nussbaum. I'm the founder and CEO of BuilderComs and just somebody that loves the construction industry. As you guys probably already know, we're coming up on a few hundred episodes at this point in time. This has become a passion project for me. I absolutely love getting together with people in the industry and raising the ball, having the conversations about not just what are the problems, but how do we actually fix those problems, leaving you with actionable items that you can go take away. As always, you don't show up for me. You show up for our amazing guests. Today is no different. Monika, it is fantastic to have you here with us today.
Yes, it is fantastic. And for all listeners of Ron's podcast, we already had off-air total construction convo, and we both agreed about the necessity to raise the bar for construction, in everybody that is involved in construction, no matter in what role.
Absolutely. She got me all fired up before we even got recording this today. So you guys and ladies are in for a treat today. But before we really dive into it, Monika, why don't you introduce yourself to all the construction champions listening out there?
Well, I understand that in my introduction, I am actually to prove why do I deserve the title of construction champion. I deserve the title of construction champion because I recognize that the construction building industry is very, very fragmented. It is such a mess, and the consequence of that is that all parties involved, be it general contractors, subcontractors, crews, architects, interior designers, lighting designers, landscape designers, and finally, perhaps most importantly, our clients/homeowners for whom we do all this work, which not only involves, as we were saying with Ron, moving dirt, it actually involves the entire process. And the process of the building industry is completely broken. I think that through my practice in this industry for a quarter of the century, I'm a very old person, I came up with a model, with a blueprint, with a method. My clients use all these nouns to describe what it is that I've done. The brilliance of the method is that it can be used in the project of any size and no matter where the construction project happens, and also to clear any misunderstanding about construction. A lot of people tend to think that construction only means building a new home from scratch. Wrong. Construction can be anything. It can be you sprucing up the kitchen. By the way, kitchens for most people are the most detailed and complicated rooms in their home. It can be building a new home from scratch on a piece of land. It can be demolishing the existing home and building a new home. It can be gut renovation. It can be addition. It can be historical restoration. So my method, as I said, is applicable to anything. I started my practice in construction industry with a kitchen renovation project whose budget was $35,000, or to be exact, $34,050 You need to be very exacting with your budget, by the way. And now I am involved in a project that involves the development of remote islands in Las Perlas Archipelago in Panama, whose budget is 350 million euros.
Awesome. Well, I am excited for this conversation today. I will say I've looked at your websites and I did see a review that a customer left that said that construction can be better than sex. So I'm excited for this conversation today because that intrigues me. But let's dive right in there. I'm going to ask the $1,000,000 question, and that is, what makes a construction champion?
So I think that it is, as I said, because construction is such a complex matter, right? And for most people, the construction project of their home is one of the biggest, if not the biggest investment of their lives. Rather than just operating within a container of building industry that is broken, the construction champion sees an opportunity to make it better. So because of the fact that the construction industry is broken, and because there are so many myths that the shows that tell you that you can have a gut renovation of your kitchen for $5,000, or that you, without prior experience whatsoever, can take it upon yourself to knock down every single wall in your house during the lunch break. Okay, so there are all these myths, right, and misconceptions. So it's just really up to us to recognize what the process is, and maybe then try to change the industry. So in my role, and I call myself a curator of construction project, I want to be engaged with the client from the aha moment of an idea for a project in their head all the way to the housewarming party. So I am the shepherd. The name of my practice, Demazing, came as a result of my conversation with a client who said, Monika, before you, I felt with my project as if I were in a maze. I turned left, I banged my head. I turned right, I banged my head. You cracked the code of the maze. You are so demazing. Hence the name of my service. And rather than perpetuating what's wrong with the industry, like for instance, insistence on competitive bidding based on what essentially is some scribblings on a dinner napkin, I strive to, in a very collaborative way, put the team together, because construction is so stressful. The very execution of work is so stressful. I want everyone to be working together within the spirit of collaboration with a total financial transparency. So the projects that I choose to curate are more like an action movie, because also, to manage everyone's expectation, despite the most careful planning, the building inspector who you need to give you certificate of occupancy can have a wife who's pregnant and might not be available, or your truck with some precious cargo of handmade tile might break and you will not get the tile on time. So the projects, when I curate them, turn into action movies. There will be twists and turns, but again, with a collaborative team, you can, in a very proactive and productive way, address anything that comes up. And they are definitely not horror stories, which most projects do tend to turn into. Hence, I don't feel like I am an imposter on Ron's podcast. I am a construction champion.
Absolutely. You're out there making this happen. And we talked about it a little bit. It has a lot to do with the mindset around the industry, the marketing, how it is portrayed has been completely wrong. Like we don't do anything to fix it. We just kind of laugh it off. Like, yeah, let him, whatever. But that's not doing anything to fix it. Like, we're not fixing the core issues with the industry, is that it's very fragmented. The collaboration you speak of turns into competition, and it ends up with the horror movies, not an action movie. Horror movies end up happening, and like that's what we need to fix. Like that if we could just come together as an industry and understand this is a problem and we need to fix it, we would be at a lot better place. It's why I do this podcast. I'm hoping the aha moments go off every week when we release these episodes and people think, oh, it doesn't have to be this way. It can be different.
Absolutely. And we are, and by we, I mean all of us professionals are part of this problem, right? So I think, effective in my role as a curator of projects is because that I came through this industry and I actually performed all the roles of all the participants, okay? So I started working at the invitation of a general contractor, and I turned his then basement-based outfit into a multi-million-dollar construction company as its vice president. I became my own client. I renovated 2 homes of my own. I have very well developed design proclivities. While I am not a trained designer, I completely designed and made all the choices for my 2 projects. So I have this, again, very, very unique perspective that comes from all angles, from all kinds of, again, perspectives, right? So here we are, and people are kind of, I don't know, they have given up because they think it's the only way. So you can only imagine, when in my role as a general contractor, I kind of always felt, Ron, that the client, having gone through this very exciting process with their design professionals, if they are cognizant enough, understanding that they actually do need to engage a design professional like an architect, right? So they just went, crazy, and they come with a set of, again, scribblings, very, very preliminary, rudimentary drawings, right? And the client who has cigars wants a humidor, and the lady wants a huge walk-in closet and the wine room, and they want all their kids to have their own separate bedroom and bathrooms. No one talks, from my experience, about money. Not an architect, not the client. And then there is idiotic competitive bidding, and I say idiotic with a perfect conviction, right? Because it is made, because it is it takes place with these very rudimentary drawings, when so much is left up to interpretation, they then engage contractors, general contractors. And I always felt, Ron, that as a general contractor, they were thinking of us as a necessary but very dirty tool. So, oh my goodness, general contractor is only out there to rip you off. And I was done. I was done with that role, right? So many conversations I would have with the clients and telling them, listen, you didn't want to spend the money for construction drawings. Haven't you had a conversation about what your budget is? The architect, by all means, knows what their, regular construction projects are. They do know, because architects make the fee on top of construction fee. So they know the costs, but no one wants to talk about it. So instead, what I do is I absolutely insist on the client to share what the budget is, withholding 25% for unforeseens, and then engaging the architect and the contractor, not based on competitive bidding, but based on chemistry, based on vetting the contractor and the architect, by talking to their clients, by talking to people in the building department, by talking to people in like lumber stores, because it's the most reliable source of information, or perhaps even talking to friend, and then collaboratively working on the plans, while whatever is envisioned as the scope of work is simultaneously priced by the general contractor, who then, having for construction drawings, can go and competitively price every single of the 16 cost categories with 3 subs. You can have 3 bids for electric, and you have 3 bids for plumbing and painting and tile installation and HVAC and flooring and cabinets, etc. So then the general contractor, knowing they have a project, and then they become your advocate on your behalf with for construction drawings, they can go and competitively bid it on your behalf. That's how you do it.
Yeah, you hit the nail on the head when you use the word excitement, because I use that all the time when I talk with people, and especially homeowners. And I'm like, you didn't ask these questions?
Mhm.
And they're like, no, I didn't feel like I know. Like, we were excited about what was happening. And it was probably about a year ago when I realized, like, that's it's one of the big disconnects, is we have people that don't want to explain things because they just feel like they shouldn't. And then we have customers that are overly excited, so they're not asking the questions they should be asking because they're like in a dream that this is getting ready to happen. And then they sign a bunch of paperwork and they move on with their lives, and then it turns into a disaster. And it's like, why wouldn't you have told them this? Or why wouldn't you have asked this? And it's because it's just this excitement of the deal. It's the excitement of the project and what's about ready to happen, that both parties absolutely lose sight of this. And there has to be some boundaries. There has to be some systems and protocol. Like, this is just how we do it. So you don't run into this stuff, because every customer is going to be excited about a brand new kitchen. But that excitement fades really fast when the project goes sideways.
Well, that's why so many projects end up in court. And also the United States are, unlike Europe, I also practice, by consulting projects in Germany and Austria and Switzerland and Poland, right? So America is such a litigious country. It's just, and I do believe that it does fall on us, and especially the architects, because in this broken industry of ours, they are the first, point of contact. I don't know why so few of the architects choose to talk about money. And usually I have to say, I love men. It's a very male-dominated industry. It is actually female architects who have the guts to talk about money. And you know why they do it? Because they are not afraid that they are going to lose the client. Sometimes the best project is the one that never happened. So I do talk about very, uncomfortable truths. If the client comes to me, and I insist, I say, if you do not tell me what your budget is, we are not going to move forward. So if the client tells me they have that much money, and then they say how big they want the house, I know the pricing. I know the pricing, right? And I tell them it is not a realistic budget. Either we will make your project smaller, or there is just no go. There is just no go, because it's a recipe for the most disastrous of disasters. So why people don't talk about money, I cannot understand it.
Yeah, last season we had one of the biggest custom home builders in Arizona was a guest on here, and he felt the pain of that. So now when he enters into an agreement with somebody to build them a house, there's an upfront cost, because he has to be involved in all the design and architect meetings. Because he's like, we would get into agreement. I would agree to build their house. Here's their budget. they would go to the architect, and we're building a 5,000 square foot, $800 a square foot house. They go to the architect, and they bring me back plans for a 6,000 square foot, $1,200 a square foot house. He's like, I couldn't do it because then they don't have the budget and the whole build gets canked. So he's like, I now collect money up front on a retainer to go sit in these meetings and control the outcomes. So when we can actually build the houses, because he's like, the architects are getting paid to design their dream house, but no one's in there watching out for what is the budget. Like, this is what we are. This is what we have the money to do. The architect can design anything. Like, but it's not feasible. So unless we start to rein that in some point in time, he's like, they would spend all this money on these plans, and then we would never build the house because it's double what they thought it was going to be, and they don't have the money. And he's like, it's not my fault, but now I have a year on my calendar that I had booked to build the house. That's gone.
And that's exactly that. So, he calls it reining things in. Like, I do believe, Ron, okay, that you can have a beautiful house no matter what your budget is. You just need to decide also what is the main focus of you. So each project has 3 elements, right? It's the budget, it's the quality, or schedule. And no, and no, you cannot have 3 of them. You must choose one, and whatever your main focus is. So if your focus is the budget, right, then the run through to the beginning of construction is longer, because maybe you need to wait and buy materials, sourcing it from going out of business events or end of season events or clearances, right? So then budget, then if your budget is your main focus and you do want quality work, then your project will be much, much longer. And also what most people refuse to believe is that their project has 4 phases. So the first phase is the design phase, where the homeowner needs to spend a lot of time, because again, most people can't even read plans. They don't know what they are looking at, right? So I encourage people to spend a lot of time to go and to put themselves right in the rooms that they would want to have in their homes, so that with their entire body they can feel the volume, they can observe the lighting. I am absolutely crazy about lighting. I feel that with lighting, multi-layered lighting in your room and just colors, painting, you can change the most drabbest of rooms into like a wow moment. But you see, it takes time. It takes time to train yourself, to understand what you want, and to also not be drawn to some very unrealistic, situations. So a woman with 2 children and 2 dogs has no business dreaming about the entry like Carrie Bradshaw of, speaking of Sex and the City, right? She had a beautiful round table with a tremendous vase of flowers. When you have 2 strollers and 2 drooly dogs, you need benches to sit down, plop yourself, unstrap your children. You need pegs to hang your backpack and your children's clothing and the leashes, and you need a huge closet to shove those strollers into so that your entrance looks somewhat, organized. But this is so much on the client. So this first thing is a design phase, and it can, listen, if you have ambitions for quality and budget is a concern, then spend 2 years preparing yourself. Then there is pre-construction, and in pre-construction what you do is you vet, you interview, you talk, and you engage everyone at the same time. Design professionals, general contractor. Then there is construction, and then people also forget that it's not one and done. when the construction is gone. Then there is the closeout and maintenance. 4 phases, not 2 phases, which is very short pre-construction and construction, and we are done. Again, so much misunderstanding, so much ignorance.
Yeah, I mean, I would agree that we cause it all ourselves. So like we don't put this information out there enough. There's not the customer isn't necessarily educated on what exactly the process is. They get excited, we go about what we do, and then it becomes a problem. And I love that you're pointing this out. I love that you're helping with this. This is absolutely amazing. Are you helping the homeowner, or are you helping the contractors? Where if somebody was going to reach out to you for you to help them, who's your ideal customer when it comes to that?
Well, my ideal customer is someone who trusts me and who lets me do my job, right? So interestingly enough, in my role as a curator, my client is ultimately the client, the homeowner. But because in what I do, and I can choose in what I get involved in, I want fun. I really want fun. I believe in chemistry. I am obsessed with the idea of home. I want everything about the project, even when it's challenging, I want it to be also exciting and memorable, right? So I act as a project curator and I work for the client, but I am also many times engaged by general contractors who want me to troubleshoot, like, project is in a crisis. So I come, I have very intense few days of meetings, and I insist on everybody being very open with me so that I can really, gather the information and propose the best method, the best process to move forward. I also work for a private lender who lends money to people who want to do construction projects. So just last week I was meeting with a general contractor, and it was obvious to me when I saw so-called budget with barely 10 line items that it is a completely unrealistic approach. So I said, time out. I'm calling a meeting. I want the client. I want the architect. I want the general contractor. I want the budget broken down in 16 cost categories and however many subcategories are applicable to a project, because projects can be less complicated or more complicated. But the budget is, as I call it, our Bible. The budget does not only let you control the money and very quickly see at every month when the general contractor is asking for money, you can see how the budget is moving. So you can be proactive. If you chose to spend money on Sub-Zero refrigerator, maybe you will have to be okay with the tile bought on clearance and not made by hand, right? So, so I actually, work, and I am engaged by anybody in the industry, by the architects as well. For instance, an architect asked me to talk about, to give a speech to the architects. They just finished their studies about the business side of it, because they said, Monika, you are making so much sense, and young architects are clueless. They are like, you need to teach everyone. So I'm here to teach, I'm here to share and talk about the, not such a sexy truth. That's again, that the industry, like we started this entire episode, right? That the industry is broken. No one is speaking up. And on top of that, we have an ignorant, client on our hands, because there is really no comprehensive education on that subject.
Yeah, absolutely.
I mean, there is. I have Nail It course. It's a 4-week course that teaches the entire process, and I've got very good feedback from all all people again in the industry. So even a real estate agent took my course, and he said, Monika, I had no idea how complicated that is. And I said, I hope you are not going to say seeing floors like that, and wanting to make a sale, you are not going to say, oh, it's just cosmetic. We are just going to, send your floors and paint them and paint the doors, and it's all somehow magically will be straightened and it will come into place. So we are all part of the problem, starting from the real estate agents, again, architects, and then the contractor enters this, the scene as a villain. It is so wrong. It is so very, very wrong. So we need to make it better. It's on us. It's on
Yeah,
us.
being somebody that's fixed a lot of sagging floors over my career, I couldn't tell you how many times I heard from a homeowner, the realtor just said this would be a few $100 and boom, bada bang. And unfortunately, it's typically not that. It's, going to probably be a few thousand plus, if the sagging floor area is the only actual problem.
That's right.
So awesome. Where can people find you or connect with you?
So my website is the best way because I explain in how you could work with me in 4 ways. Currently, I am running, even though I'm crazy busy, but I am really, really committed to making the industry better. I am offering what I call a tool-up chat, free 15-minute conversation so that I can get to the heart of the matter, which apparently, and only using the words of my customer, is one of my superpowers. I get to the heart of the matter very quickly. You can sign up for my free masterclass if you want to dig deeper. There is my 4-week Nail It course, online course, and then you can engage me, on a one-on-one private client situation. So many ways for any budget and for any, I would say, for any degree of seriousness, because again, like I said before, but I think, one of my coaches said, Monika, people need to hear things at least 4 times to really, the thing to sing it in. So let me repeat, clients need education. Clients need education. So you need to be serious about it as a homeowner, and all us practicing in the industry are responsible. We are teachers. We are teachers all within our, area of responsibility. And we have to have the guts to just say, even if it means losing the project.
Absolutely. Thank you for taking the time and being on the show today. I appreciate it.
Thank you for having me, Ron. Let's move some dirt.
Absolutely. All right, Construction Champions, another episode in the Bay where, we dive into a subject that you guys know is very near and dear to my heart. And that is the dysfunction and the just scatterness that the construction industry has. Like we don't have this alignment that's in a positive sense to everybody. We're all in this together, no matter what part of the project you're working on, or if you're running the project, or if you're on the front end or the back end. It's our job to come together to create this experience for our clients, whether it's residential, commercial, whatever kind of project you do, you have a client that you're trying to deliver for. Chances are that client doesn't know a whole lot about everything that has to happen to get to their dream, to get to that excitement that we talk about. All they see is a couple meetings and some renderings, and they don't understand why there's a delay, why something's happening. It was ones we don't communicate this stuff well, but we don't come together and do it together. Because a lot of times what ends up happening is somebody throws somebody under the bus, and then that we put this customer in the middle of a dispute between a couple of subs or the supplier, or the stuff's not here, I can't do my job. And that customer has this horrible experience because we let it get out of control. We didn't reel it in. We didn't just take control of the situation. That's what Monika's talking about. Is like, she's the person that comes in and just takes control of the situation, so none of this happens. You can do it as well. Like, you can do it for your business. You owe it to your customers, and if you can't, you probably need to reach out to somebody like Monica that can help you understand how you take control of these projects. We've talked about it a lot on here recently. We have gotten so far away from customer experience, being about our customers. It's what the industry was built on 20 years ago. Handshakes and deliver an amazing customer experience built the construction industry. And then somewhere we fell off our horse. And it became less about like what was this actual experience, and I don't know what exactly happened, but there's a push back to that right now, and I believe that is one of the things that will course correct the construction industry, is if we get focused back in on the customer experience in making sure we're delivering and having these aren't even hard conversations as long as we have them at the beginning. Like when we're talking about the budget and what exactly can happen with the money you have to spend, like if we do that on day 0 instead of doing it on day 150, where we have to be like, oh, you can't have the Marlboro because that's out of the budget, and that customer was playing like that was what their biggest thing was, and they're not finding out about it until day 150 because we chose that. Like that's a hard conversation. But on day 0, it's an easy conversation. So, construction champions, until next time, be the champion you're meant to be.